the lure of secrets unknown and things forbidden, as the silken strands began to weave their translucent tapestry behind the glass. "It is a quill," whispered Anne in a voice full of awe. "You are to marry a learned man, Susan." "No, the spell is not yet complete," said Abigail tetchily. She shook the last of the viscous fluid from the egg, careful not to let the yolks slide out, then placed it aside and studied the patterns with intense concentration. "The strands are settling. The image is emerging. It is a sword. Look." "Yes, a sword," agreed Betty. "Abby is right. It is a sword." "Then Susan is to marry a fighting man." Anne pouted. "Are you positive it is not a quill?" Abigail shook her head vehemently. "It is a sword. The spirits have given us their answer. What think you, Susan? Would you pledge your troth to a fighting man?" Susan stared at the glass, but could see only an irregular shape formed randomly by the egg white in suspension, and lent illumination by the fire beyond. "I don't know," she said. "I might not get married at all. I haven't decided yet." "Not marry?" cried Mary, scandalized. "Would you become a bitter old spinster or a malicious beggar like Sarah Good? Or a witch?" put in Anne, a spark in her eyes. The atmosphere was diffused by cackling laughter, an expression of amusement, yes, but with a hard undertone of spite. There was relief, too, that the ritual had ended without dire consequence. Susan joined in uncertainly. It had been a mistake to hint at her different upbringing and culture, and it was for the best that she had not been taken seriously. Abigail cleared her throat and regained control of the gathering. She had removed the glass from the table with a care that bordered on reverence. Now she reached to draw one more towards her and produced another egg from the folds of her formal, constricting grey tunic. "Another?" gasped Mary. "Might not the minister be returning soon?" "There will be time yet for one more." Abigail seemed to be fueled by Mary's worries, to revel in the possibility of discovery. "Oh, let it be me," piped up Betty. "Go on, Abby, let it be me." But Abigail shook her head. "'Tis my turn to peer into the future. I wish to know the calling of my husband this time." The pronouncement was greeted by silence, and Susan could feel the darkness rising again. She became acutely aware of the howling of a lonely wind outside as cold air leaked through the shutters and caressed her spine. She had a sudden, powerful sense that their actions here, this primitive, superstitious game, as she had first dismissed it, were wrong in the worst possible way. Only dark things and evil could come out of this night's activities. She wanted to leap to her feet, to snatch the egg from Abigail's hand, to scream out that she would forfeit their very souls. But her legs felt like concrete, and new patterns were already coagulating in the water. This time there was no denying the image that formed. Even Susan could see it, though it took Anne to put it into words. "A coffin," she spluttered. "It's a coffin. Oh, Abigail, no, no!" Abigail's habitual confidence had drained away. She stared into the glass with cursed eyes and a deathly white face, and her attempts to speak brought forth only strangulated whimpers. Part of Susan was telling her to step back from this, to bring her scientific knowledge to bear, to refute the awful prophecy. Another was screaming that it was true, that the girl was damned. Then Abigail cried out in pain and swept the glass from the table with considerable force. It struck the wall and smashed. But the damp pattern, as egg and water soaked into the wood, resembled a coffin still. She saw it and cried again, toppling backwards on her chair as she scrambled to escape the ghoulish image. She hit the floor with a crash, and Mary and Susan rushed to her side as Anne just stared and shook her head, and Betty began to weep. Abigail was thrashing about in the straw, tears cascading down her cheeks, her breath coming in frenzied pants. Her eyes had rolled back in their sockets, and her body was seized.